When you're ready to start work on your site, there's two areas that you're going to focus on. First of all is preparing the site, and the second is installing your foundations. So for context, when we look at our roadmap, we are in the build it phase and we are in the fundamentals stage. So the first of the fundamentals is getting ready, and we're going to look at the welfare rules for construction, the site security, accident reporting, audit visits and health and safety. And when we look at the foundations, we're essentially going to look at the construction of the oversite, because technically the foundations is only a very small part of that, but in fact what most people consider to be the foundations is actually the oversite. Incidentally, when I looked at the people who view this channel, I was surprised to find that only 16% of those people have actually subscribed. So if you really enjoy some of the content or have enjoyed some of the previous videos, then please subscribe to the channel. You really don't know how much that actually helps. What I'm wanting to do in the future is to actually bring on some people to interview, but I can only do that if we can build up our subscriber base. So I really would appreciate you subscribing and hitting that notification to be notified of when new videos are presented. So let's get started on the first part of this. You need to consider the welfare rules on site. These are essentially having the right facilities to look after your contractors. That's going to be the installation of somewhere that they can sit to take their breaks, that's warm, a place to be able to dry their clothes, toilet facilities, and so forth. And it will be a place also to have site meetings so that you can have that communication with them, and where you would administer first aid if that was necessary. Next, we need to look at the security of the site. We need to look at what we need to do in order to make sure that the site is secure, but also to make sure that people don't wander onto our site and potentially creates a huge legal liability for us, and prevents us, if we have the right procedures in place, from perhaps being sued, but at least mitigating the reasons for that. So we need to think about the security. Is that going to involve cameras, fences? What are the different things that you need to consider there? And then if accidents, unfortunately, building sites are quite dangerous places, and so therefore you've got to make sure that you have a proper accident reporting system in place. You need to be aware of any accidents, or the site manager or whoever is responsible for the site on a day-to-day basis needs to be aware of those, and that we are following the procedures. And then audits, there's a long list of things which is you should be checking, or the person who is in charge of the site should be checking on a fairly regular basis to make sure that you are complying with different things. So some of those things are going to include the site hours, the car parking arrangements, the site inductions are being carried out, signing in, you need to have people signing into your site, the traffic management if it's a large site, the provision for personal protection equipment, the welfare arrangements, risk assessments and method statements having been carried out, weekly register referring to any equipment that's on site that may need periodic checking up, so the things that you need to be doing there. Pedestrians, really, again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't want them wandering on the site, but if you have got people who are visiting the site, then what's the procedure, and is that being adhered to? And then, do you have a health and safety file for all your forms? Next, we're ready to do the foundations, and so we won't look at the types of foundations. I actually have another video on that I did several years ago. I'll put a link up here so that you can have a look at it, and in the description below. So the first thing we're going to do is to strip the site. That really is removing the topsoil. What are you going to do with the topsoil, in terms of, you'll need some of it for landscaping, but you don't need all of it. It bulks up by about 50% of the actual amount that you take out, and so therefore what are you going to do with the excess that you don't need? That needs to be disposed of, usually off site somewhere. That has a cost implication depending on how you're going to do that, and there are various solutions to that. And then once you've stripped the site, you're then going to start to put the foundation. So you're actually going to dig to the depth of the foundations according to the structural engineer's plans, and providing there's no soft spots, then you're going to be able to lay the foundations in there. And that's really just, when we talk about this, it's just a strip foundation. Of course, it depends on the type of foundations that you're going to be installing. And then once that's done, you're going to build the foundation walls. So once you've got a concrete base there, the walls come up, and these are essentially what most people think as part of the foundations. And then before you actually enclose those walls, you're going to install the drainage and insulation into the foundations. And the reason for that is that once, particularly if you've got a concrete base as the final part to the foundations, then you need to be able to put the pipe work in and have that already there. Plus the pipe work for the drainage needs to be able to come through the foundation walls. So you've got to then install that and have that in place. If you have a suspended floor, which is a timber floor, then you still need to have the space coming through the foundation walls, but it's not so important obviously to put the drainage in place, because you will be able to work within the space that is created there, because there'll be a void space below the actual floor structure. And then there's the pouring of the slab, so that's the final part on the top. And then there will be various inspections that need to be carried out. So depending on what method of inspections that you've got from building control and from your warranty provider, or you may have that combined. In Scotland, they have to be separate. The local council will not allow you to have the warranty inspector doing that, but there are provisions in England where you can do that, but of course not all companies will do that. So there tends to be two stages of inspections there. The first one is once you've actually got the foundation base in, and then the second is at the point that they want to see the drainage, and that you've made provision for that. So that pretty much covers this particular stage of the fundamentals. Incidentally, if you'd like to get a copy of my book, You a Property Developer, then you can get, there'll be a link in the description below where you can get it. All I ask, in fact, I'm giving it for free at the moment. That may change, of course, and all I'm asking is that you pay the postage and packaging. Remember what I said about subscribing? I really would appreciate that. There's plenty of videos. This is actually part of a series of videos. So if you have a look at the playlist here, there will eventually be 21 videos in this series, and we're getting towards the end there, so there's a lot there that you can actually consume. So if you want to watch the video prior to this, then watch this video here, and if you want to watch the video next in this series, then watch this video here once it's been published. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.